Good morning, everyone. I am sitting down to do a pro forma review on the awesome duplex we looked at yesterday. I did have a conversation to talk to the other agent, so I will share that with you as we get into it here. So that being said, let's pull up the property. And I apologize if you hear any of the background noise. I am having my roof replaced today, so it's sounds like they're about to fall through my roof. So anywho, this is the property that we're looking at, 5543 Southwest Lombard. It's a duplex. It's got two bedrooms on each side. It's one and a half bath. So there's a full bathroom upstairs and then a half bath downstairs. Yeah, so first of all, I'm going to share this with you, and this is how I've been using my doing for my pro formas right now. This is not like Phil's confidential anything. I will share this with you. You can tweak with the numbers based on your comfort level, and things like that, especially when it comes to like, assumptions and increases and appreciation, stuff like that. But I'm just going to jump into it really quickly. So I did talk to the other agent. They said they were renting for $2,000 ish a month. He actually owns one of the other units right next door. I went to Rentometer, which is a tool that I use. And they have the median, and I usually use the median versus the average just because these outliers will sway, that will sway the average a little bit. So that matches about what the other agent was saying. These are the other properties that were listed. And if you look at kind of where your property is, I think it's right in here. It's kind of in the moderate, right? It's kind of in the moderate. There's a couple high outliers, but I think 2000 is a pretty good. I think I used a 250. No, I didn't. I used a 210. All right. Anyhow, let me actually update that now because I wanted to match what I had. So that'd be 210. And again, you can tweak this for however you want. You can leave it at $2,000 a month. Average appreciation, as far as rent goes in that area, so annual increase, is about 5.5% over the last 10 years. I put in four again just to be a little bit conservative. I leave a 5% vacancy rate in there, and that won't be 5% every year, but just on average, as we look. Sorry, Sterling. On average, factor that in, right? So every once in a while, you might have a month, but you keep some good long-term tenants in there, and you'll be doing just fine. I use a down payment 25% at 7% interest rate. I think those are reasonable numbers. I am guesstimating about 10,000 in closing cost. I know the loan will be about 1%, and then taxes actually aren't bad. Taxes are 3,900 or $4,000. I'm guesstimating insurance at 1,500, and I put a maintenance in here of $1,200 a year. That gives you $10,000 every 10 years, or 11,000 ish, 12,000 ish. My math is great. So you could replace a roof or whatever you need to do every 20 years or so. So we'll come back to the roof. Home value appreciation. So again, we've been averaging closer to 6%. I put in 4% just to be conservative. Okay. I put cost to sell at 7%. Not that that really matters because you guys won't be selling, but just for the purpose of the calculation. And I did a holding length of 20 years. So you guys could say, hey, in 20 years, what might this asset be? What's my return on that in 20 years? So popping back up here, looking at what the summary is for this property. We're looking at a cap rate of about 6%. Your cash on cash return over the 20 years is just over 700%, almost 800%. If we look at the monthly breakdown of cash flow, so the first year it is cash flowing, but again, I would say we have some of our maintenance numbers and things like that are kind of on the conservative side, because depending on what you want to do with the property, you might want to bring in a landscaper, or you might be pressure washing or things like that. But I would say is hopefully we're buying the home in good enough condition that we won't have to, worry about some of those big ticket items. And the nice thing about that is that also correlates with over time, your cash flow is going to increase, right? So by the time we get to that 10-year mark, right? Let's say you want to, 10 years might be a long time to wait to repaint. But even the 5-year mark, you're going to have an additional 10,000 in cash flow just coming in from the rental property. So something to factor in as you look at that, and you consider, saving for those big ticket items. Because again, eventually roofs will need replaced. furnaces and stuff like that will need replaced. That's just going to happen. So we just want to build in knowing that into our assumptions. Okay, so first thing I'll talk about is HVAC. Let me first start with what's happening in the property. So right now there is, let me get a backyard shot. So right now the right now in the backyard is it's slightly, we're a little lower than the property behind us. Okay. And what's been happening is water, sorry for scrolling so fast. What's happening is water is coming down into the crawl space, and the sub pump required it to be plugged in. Like literally, someone had to physically plug it in, which wasn't happening. Water was piling up. It rotted some of the one of the posts, and that all had to be replaced. Some of the underfloor had to be replaced. So currently, right now, they're trenching underneath. They're hardwiring in a sub pump, which is what needs to happen. And they're going to replace all the vapor barrier and stuff like that. And of course, all the rod and stuff's going to be taken out. Inside the units, pretty much what has been done is all that's going to be done. So they replaced the carpet, as you saw. I think that's kind of the main thing is they replaced the carpet. There may be some other stuff. These units have sat empty for, I think, almost a year. And I didn't get the story as to why, why that was, but they just been sitting there. Yes. Other things, HVAC, they are servicing the one. There's an element that's going to be updated in that, so it'll be certified as functioning and updated. And then the other one's actually been replaced. So you actually have a brand new unit that's maybe a year or two old, and the other one, and this one will be up and functioning. So at some point, that one will probably need to be replaced, but hopefully, again, that's 5, 6, 7 years down the road where you have some more of that income. The roof. Okay, so the roof is 3 layers on here. Okay. The original roof, so what the year was 1970. So let's say we add 25 years, or let's say 20 years. That would guess. So I'm trying to think of how many. There's 3 layers. So if the first roof went on in 72, the second roof went on in 92, and the next roof went on in 2012 ish. My math, I think, is right. So we're coming up to probably the last 5 to 10 years on this roof. That will be a little bit more pricey of a replacement, mainly because there's 3 layers on there. So that's a lot of material. It's going to be dug off. And then you'll need a new roof on there. So let's parking lot that for right now. Because the roof probably has some life on it, I'm not sure I would necessarily want to ask for that to be replaced, because it's kind of like you're kind of wasting money a little bit. But I do think it's something we negotiate in and say, hey, listen, we know we need a new roof. It's going to be expensive. It's probably going to be $25,000. I don't know. We can get a quote for it. And then we just factor that into the deal, whether that's a price decrease, whether that's closing costs, concessions, something like that. That's keeping money in your pocket so you can do it later. But also, too, when we have someone look at that roof, they might be like, hey, this needs to be replaced right now. In which case we say, hey, we want the roof replaced. That's just what it is. Okay. So that's my thoughts on the unit. And of course, I think we mentioned you could smell the smoke on this side. So we'd probably want to bring in an ozone. I'll get a quote on that, but I'm pretty sure it's less, like $500 or less to do. Okay. So we've talked about this. It is cash flowing monthly, which is great. So let's talk about this rental amount, right? So this is long-term tenants. This is kind of set it and forget it. You put it in there. Now, I like to be a little bit creative. I think I told you that my condo, we're getting legitimately $2,800 to $3,200 when I had an Airbnb, and that's for a 1-bedroom. Yes. So I pulled a quick search here for, I looked out just in July, and I said 4 guests, for a weekend. And I think I did entire house. Yeah, I did. Okay. So this is what's kind of going on in that area right now. We have a couple, so 200 a night, 200 a night, 200 a night, 200 a night. This one's 400 a night. This actually is a three bedroom. Um, then what I do, this is an apartment, so I'm just gonna click on this because I think it's kind of close. Okay. So they're listing theirs as a three bed, two bath. So this must flop down in the living room, and they're considering that. Okay. This thing is 700 square feet. That seems bonkers to me that they're getting that much. Okay. Now, when I look at their calendar, so I'm going back, this is kind of a little hack. So I went back, I'm opening up their calendar for June. This particular unit looks like it was fully booked for June. Okay. I'm willing to bet that that was a long-term person because usually you'll see, some spaces that were not booked, but it looks like they're fully booked in June. But their July, honestly, they have a couple in July that are booked. June, honestly, if I'm looking at this correct, looks pretty available. Yeah, June is booked, July is kind of open. August has some bookings. So I'm looking at these as bookings. Now, to be fully transparent, when you see those with the line out, that typically means booking. It could means that the owner went in and blocked it off for some reason, but I think it's pretty safe to assume that those are that they are, booked. Okay. This is another apartment in that same area. This one had a little bit better um to show that there was, some vacancies, for June that's still available. But by and large, they're booked about 20 days of the month. So just doing some Canadian math, you got 20 days booked, and I'm saying 200 just again to be conservative. There's going to be fees and stuff like that. That right there is 4,000 a month, right? So these guys for the month of June, as it sits, is getting about 400 a month or 4,000. Okay. So what I kind of was thinking would be fun is you put a long-term tenant in one side, right? So you got your $2,000 coming in every month, right? And then get creative with the other side. Um, do an Airbnb, right? I would say you want to do, two beds upstairs. I would do a fold-out couch downstairs, or at least one of your couches downstairs, so you actually can sleep six people. Because this guy over here, this guy right here, like I said, they're renting out for $400 a night. And when you look at their availability, like they were booked all but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 days. So they had 22 days at $400. That's $8,800 right there. Okay. And I think the main differentiation is here. It has the extra room, right? Like it's got the extra bed. So again, you don't quite have that, but you have a large enough space. I don't think that's an issue. And they are booked in July as well. So you won't obviously get, probably be full, 22 days a month. But at $8,000, you could take a couple months off. You know what I mean? You could be conservative. Whether that's a long term or midterm. When I say midterm, that's usually 30 plus days. A traveling nurse or something like that. Or if you want to capitalize on it, and it could be fun is to try it out for, a period of time, maybe a year. Do short term, like do, nightly rates. The nice thing about Airbnb is your Airbnb expenses are like pass through. So your turnover costs, your cleaning and stuff like that, you charge a $250 cleaning fee. Your cleaner costs $200, right? So that covers everything and you put a little bit aside. If they make a mess, you are covered by the Airbnb, like, their host protection plan and stuff like that. So you have some, safety nets and security, and they're typically easier on your apartments or on your units because they're here visiting, they're here for a reason. They're not living in the home, typically, 24 hours a day. Like they're out and about, they come home and sleep and eat and then go back out and about. So I actually found they're easier on my rentals when we did that. So I think conservatively, you're going to be closer, probably on average, three to honestly $4,500 a month, because you have a really big area. Like your spaces are really big. So you want to, decorate. This is probably a little bit, you probably want something a little warmer, because you got a lot of wood and dark tones and stuff like that. But you decorate it real nice. And I could teach you how to do that real reasonable. I could show you how to rent this thing out online. It's not super duper hard at all. Yeah, that's my thought. Other things I want to point out is the Beaverton Loop project. See right here. You're going to be over here somewhere. I apologize. I'm not sure exactly where you're on the map. But basically, this is construction starting in 2026 or 2027. And this is going to be a walking path. They're talking about actually putting in a commuter rail line here. You're currently a block away from, I mean, you have a bus stop right now, but they're actually talking about putting in a commuter line. And you're gonna be right in the midst of it. So that's pretty cool, I think, as well. All right, that's it, you guys. Food for thought. You got it. I'm going to send you a link to this actual calculator so that you can play with the numbers. You can, add in more of a buffer if you want to put in more maintenance, and front load that. You want to make sure you feel comfortable with that. In 20 years, yeah, they say this place is going to be worth, 1.3 million. And if you want to get crazy and actually put in true appreciation rates, again, this is historical. If you put in 6%, we're talking $2 million, and I don't think that's unreasonable. Again, that's a 10-year historical, so we've had some ups and downs in that time. So anyway, I hope that's helpful. Let me know your thoughts. Sorry, this one was so long, but have a great day, you guys, and look forward to hearing from you. Bye.